The name Cai Palmiter has probably come up often in your LinkedIn feed, on podcasts, magazines as well. Kai is an avid marketer in the restaurant industry, gaining her fame while working at the brand JINYA. Because of Kai's efforts, JINYA has redefined ramen culture in the United States. And under her watch, JINYA grew from 45 units to over 65 units, effectively a 50% increase. One of the things that you would have noticed about Jinya's growth was how those openings looked. It wasn't soft, it wasn't quiet, it was loud with lines. And sure, the product does a lot to help with that, but it's really the thinking behind how to open a restaurant and how to open restaurants in new markets that really led the charge for Jinya's success, and all of that ladders up to Kai. Now she's out on her own as a consultant, working with a number of notable brands, including folks from Jinya, Paris Baguette, Kung Fu Tea, so on and so forth. There's a long list. Kai is bringing her knowledge to each of these concepts and unfurling how to open up new markets and new brands. And today, I'm really excited to talk to Kai about how to do just that, and I hope you get a lot of value from what we're about to discuss. One of the things that so many brands just seem to have a problem with is getting locations open in a way that makes a splash. And I think we know why. There's a fear that you get this huge line out the door, the team isn't ready, everyone has a bad experience, the whole world burns, cats living with dogs, mass pandemonium. But one thing that you've seemed to ace in your career with Jinya and elsewhere is how to make new markets and new locations absolutely sing. And I think it's enigmatic to so many people. So, in your opinion, where do most marketing leaders get opening new restaurants wrong? Where do they go wrong?
I think pretty much when they underestimate the importance of tailoring a strategy to the specific market or community. A lot of times they would execute a one size fits all approach, which they go about an SOP that they share to, especially if it's a brand that franchises. They would have the standard operating procedure or grand opening template. I hate those words, but um, coincidentally, that's what most marketing people or leaders are doing right now, and it shouldn't be that way. I think they need to think of the area. Always do an extensive research about the area, especially what days would it fall, what season would it fall when you're opening. Those are the things that I think they tend to forget. And also, how can you touch on the community itself? Building that relationship with the community is very, very important. A lot of times they just do this come and go. They would come on the grand opening day and then they forget about it. So there's no momentum build up. There's no relationship build up. There's no reaching out to the community or actually really telling them that, you know, it's not just about them coming in and opening a restaurant and then, okay, making it profitable, but also being part of the community. I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, it's good points. I think that it stems from the desire to operationalize and systematize everything, which is okay, at least on a baseline. Like we know we have to pull certain levers, certain things has to be done at certain times. But it seems like what you're saying is there's just missing this whole layer of actual connectivity and relevancy for the market. Like the way that you would open a brand in, let's say, Midtown Manhattan should by and large be completely different than the way that
Yes.
you would do it in Mobile, Alabama.
Ye-
Um, and yet they're
Yes.
playing from the same book.
Yes. And it's completely different how it, I'll give you an example. Um, what is one state that we all know is really religious because of how they got colonized back in the day. You think of those days because then you don't schedule your grand opening on a weekend, like a Saturday or Sunday when people go to church.
Yeah.
Nobody would go at a specific time that you're trying to open. So a lot of the times they fail to think of things like that. And I know it's like, well, does it really matter? Yeah, for a community as tight as you want to penetrate, you would want to know all these details.
That's right.
It's these are things that are really important on how to really kind of break the barrier on certain markets or certain states.
Yeah, you can get very micro on that too. So speaking using the same example, this one is probably a well done that most people would
Yeah.
tackle. You would hope. But for instance, in a let's just say Alabama or Louisiana, where there are dry parishes. So if you have in your kit something that markets the combination of alcohol with food, it's going to be very silly. Or
Yeah.
it may not
Yeah.
even get there, and you're going to have to scramble.
Yes, that's actually a good point because uh, just for example, I live now back in Outer Banks, and in North Carolina, they don't serve alcohol right after 12 p.m. on a Sunday. So imagine that. And then you have, let's say, your concept is a brunch area or brunch restaurant, and you are open as early as what, 7 o'clock.
Mhm.
Do you think that that will really capitalize between 7 and when you do a grand opening between those times when you can't serve alcohol and not until after 12 p.m.? So it's all those little things that kind of, makes you think of like, well, did that make sense? So you really need to know not just, the marketing aspect of it, but also TTB laws that applies in every state. So how can you actually implement something that you implement on a nationwide? For example, the happy hour, which is
You're dealing with that in Virginia, aren't you?
yes, yeah, like the happy hour um menu or happy hour special that how do you navigate through that in different states? How do you translate that? How do you actually implement that on a national level? So those are the things that's really important.
Yeah, for listeners that don't know, Virginia in particular, I ran into this early in my career. We did a whole restaurant brand identity development, concept development for a place in Roanoke, Virginia. When we had taken over the account, they had already committed to, I think, $100,000 in billboards, which we could not clamor back at all. But so we were like, well, we might as well do something great with them. One of the one liners that we had on the billboard was April showers bring happy hours. And we proceeded to get in a lot of trouble. You cannot promote happy hours in Virginia, and it sounds like that hasn't changed.
Yeah, no, it hasn't changed. It's also not allowed in North Carolina. You can have a special, daily special, but you can't use the word happy hour. Anytime that they see that it is a discounted price for your liquor, they won't allow that. So people have gone creative in making sure that they are able to implement that. But there are states that are really, really very strict with that. You can't
Mhm.
do buy one get one drinks. You can't do a um, mimosas, unlimited mimosas. Like the words, you have to know what's applicable, and that's where sometimes a legal counsel comes in handy if you are not very knowledgeable with that.
Yeah, counsel does come in handy there. Also, you would start to expect this of agencies, and why it's so important to dig into the details about this. You need an agency partner that's going to understand this, and
Absolutely.
before you go to the legal,
Yeah,
that's what it would take. Um,
absolutely.
so this is all well and good when it comes to like singular locations. One of the other problems that I've seen, at least in my career, is brands who are entering into a whole new market where there is no knowledge of the brand. It's fresh, it's from scratch. I've seen it done right, and I've seen it done wrong, and I've seen everything in between. From your perspective, the interesting thing about specifically Jinya is it's not the kind of brand where you're going to open on every street corner like a Starbucks or one of those brands. Instead, you have maybe three, four, five in a metro area.
Right.
Um, and so getting into that market can be quite expensive, difficult, and a tough nut to crack. How have you done it? Let's say in Atlanta, where I used to live. How were you able to enter into a tight knit community like Atlanta that has some notoriety and or fame for rejecting outside brands?
You actually provide them convenience and demand in the market. So when entering new markets, I think leaders often assume brand recognition or success in existing locations will automatically translate to new ones. No, it takes time actually to really get that market embrace you. In Atlanta, for example, you guys have the worse traffic there. I think, oh, that's right. You're not in the plant anymore. Um, but it has the worst traffic. So if you are craving or wanting ramen specifically, and a couple of small plates or tapas, you would have to travel from one end to another to just get to your favorite place. Uh, that's where we knew that we have to create within the 7 miles distance another restaurant, because there is a demand and need, and we provide convenience for those that live outside the city itself, the city proper. So people are getting excited the more we open in concentrated cities like Atlanta, DC, or Texas. And that's something that it might sound like you're cannibalizing the market, but if you are providing value like convenience,
Mhm.
and so that, like I said, I'm going to go back to the demand, you would have that following, and it actually opens up to new consumers or new customers in that area, because people will be wondering, why is there a line there? Why is the wait is, 45 minutes? What is this bread in? And then people will talk outside. You will hear them talk, oh, I have this near my office in so and so. That's why we're so excited that they open out here, in the suburbs. So it's that kind of penetrating the market that kind of works. But if you
Mhm.
have entering, I want to go back to your question, entering new markets. When you enter a new market and you have that overconfidence that just a brand recognition alone will translate to, profitable area or sales, it's not. You have to do market research, site selection, making sure that there is a really authentic engagement to the community and there's a need for it. Because oftentimes, if you ignore those, and also adapting to the service model of the local taste and how they want it done, you can easily just open a restaurant and probably struggle the next, 6 months, a year, and then think that I didn't know that this is not something that the market wanted. So it's
Right.
it's always good to know to actually do your research in an area.
Yeah, and I think that's where leaders across the disciplines within the organization need to be speaking to each other and collaborating. Um, I think there's been so much siloing over the years. We're starting to finally realize that marketing has a seat at the tech table, tech has a seat at the development table, development at the marketing, and everything in between. And if you don't operate that way, easy to say when you're smaller, a little bit more difficult, of course, the larger you get into mid market and enterprise. But it's still so vitally important for those reasons. As a smaller brand, a brand between the 50 and 100 units, it there's no reason to not. So one of the firsthand experiences that I had was with a brand that recently filed for bankruptcy, and that's EG's out of Tucson. So really heartbreaking. We did a lot of fantastic work with a lot of fantastic players inside the organization, even at the PE level, where we revitalized that brand. We gave it this natural evolution ahead. We were really pumped about it, but the CEO at the time, although he was there, he disregarded so much of the information that could have led to a better path of opening restaurants. Now, that's a very big blanket statement. Everything has nuance, but I will say this. When we were looking at the plan for the areas of opening, we started saying, well, our our core patron and even the coalition of patrons that are influenced by her don't even exist in this market.
Mm.
So why are we going there? And his
Yeah,
response was, it's a highway. They'll hop off. No, no, they won't.
yeah,
In this case, EG is a little easier. It's QSR compared to like a full service restaurant like JINYA. But additionally, another firsthand experience that I've had was Zaxby's. Now we were handling their digital, but being finger on the pulse with the marketing leader there at the time, they were advertising on TV and out of home in Utah, where they had plans to open up years ahead. They had no plans currently, just to get the name in front of the people, just to be starting to get that iteration of Zaxby's. What is a Zaxby's? Ooh, I want Zaxby's. Oh, it's this food. It's a lot of investment, but on the other side of that, I've seen brands who have lackadaisically entered into new markets thinking that it was just a guaranteed win.
Yeah.
only to be turned away within a year, maybe two max, specifically well-known brands in Atlanta. Atlanta has been wonderful to see when I lived there. Batali came in, he got turned right back around.
Yeah.
Colecchio came in, got turned right back around. Emerald came in, got turned right back around because
What's
they
in
come in with this,
mm,
I'm Batali. Yeah, you're gonna come to me because I'm me. And we're like, no, we have our own people that we love and adore, and they actually do a better job than you, in our opinion.
yeah.
Um, and so it's really interesting to hear your take on that because Jinya came into a town like Atlanta that already had really good rum, so Tauntaun and I'm missing a few of the other names. There was great ramen there, but then Jinya comes in and they nestle right into the mix. Um, what are some of the keys to getting there? I know you talked about some of them, but I want more. Like, what are some of those secrets? Dish.
Well, experience. It's an experiential dinner for every customer, regardless if you're new or you're coming back. It's always an experience. There's always something to look forward to. The way you're going to eat your ramen, the way it's being served, the new LTLs that's being rolled out every quarter. It's a combination of bring the Japanese cuisine and culture right at, in the heart of different cities here in the US. So I think that's the most important thing, staying true to our roots and brand and making sure that it is emulated in not just the marketing campaigns or marketing plans, but also to every single employees. Those uh, servers, bartenders, they go through extensive trainings every so often. Every quarter, there is like a what we call JFI webinar where you get a good feel of what's coming next month or the next quarter. What are we rolling out? It's something that it's very interesting as a brand because everything is planned most likely like a year in advance. We would know already what's going to roll out in every quarter for 2025. And it's been, R&D by the executive chef in corporate office. So that's that's really
Could you say
the,
that
the
timeline one more time? Because I think some listeners need to hear that for their brands a
yes,
year in advance.
in advance.
Wouldn't that be
The
nice?
CEO goes to Japan every month, and every month, um, when he comes back from Japan, he would gather all the things that he's tried, what is new and happening in Asia or specifically in Japan itself. They would try different products, try different approach, and they would apply that to the upcoming LTOs. The LTO that we rolled out every quarter, there's only four LTOs rolled out every, quarter. There's at least entree and a small plate that comes with it. Those are pre-planned a year in advance. And then there are certain LTOs that's been come back every year. For example, every summer, the cold noodle, it's always coming back, hiyashi cold ramen, because it is a summer staple in Japan. So that's something that people know it's going to come back in the summer. In December, when it's like, the time of winter, it's getting cold. We have this, it switches up every other year, but red garnet typically comes out every December, or it could be the karage chicken ramen that we've rolled out. It's something that people have really, really liked and look forward to, and they always get sad or upset when you say it ends on February 28th. So the way we come up with LTO, it's very interesting because it creates that again, the want and the demand. And people would say they would even take the time to send a feedback via email or social media and say, "Can you please bring back so and so ramen or this small plate? That was really good."
Mhm.
So that's what's been so unique about Jinya is that it's created a different kind of demand in the market that we didn't think would be really crucial in the rise of the ramen culture here in the US.
Yeah, I love that. So the LTOs are really great. I think once you start getting established in there and getting people to come back and all of that, really important facet of the marketing scheme. How do you start to introduce the food to new markets? Are you doing pop-ups? Are you doing out of home advertising, doing the crave shots and all of that? Or is it more guerrilla and more boots on the ground?
That's a really very interesting question because I deal with when I used to work in the corporate side of JINYA. I was dealing with 28 franchisees or owners. So a lot of the times it varies on how they would adapt to what you share and recommend to them on what's going to work in the area. Uh, it took a while, but we've really gone a long way of standardizing a lot of things. So with that being said, now there is kind of that boots in the ground, uh, kind of that they go about. We introduce them to who are the trusted, vendors or partners that we work with in the areas that they can work with as well when they're trying to either open a new area or they're struggling with foot traffic. They wanted to do more with their local store marketing because it's been standardized as well to make sure that we are you know, really implementing local store marketing. They are
Mhm.
obliged to do or at least allocate 2% of their sales to local store marketing. So how do they do that? So we give them a list of things that they can go about and see if it's something that is catered to their area. A lot of times you get some setbacks on that, but what will work for us, I'll give you an example. The hardest probably area to for me that we try to really penetrate is Hawaii. And why is that?
Mm.
The it's like it's like the ramen capital of the US, I think.
Well,
Uh
yeah, supply chain also becomes an issue for consistency, but such a
that
huge I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but Hawaii has such a huge, Japanese,
yeah,
tourism as well, as much as US and
yes.
American.
And they know where to go when it comes to ramen, a good udon, a good sushi. And
Mhm.
how to navigate through that is like we were really, you know, touching on the community, every event, every um let's say marathon or TV appearances, live TV segments, we would do that. And every single, let's say, milestones that we have, we would invite the local media or influencers because it is a very close, you know, tight community. They know each other. Uh, so you really have to have that relationship with them. And we work with a local PR. She's known in the island. She's worked with various restaurants for almost 15 years now. So having her to really touch on those local influencers, media outlets, and crafting it according to how Hawaii would adapt or at least embrace Jinya in general, that actually gave us the best number one ramen in the island for 2024. If I'm not mistaken. They had this Honolulu Awards, which
Yeah.
is at yeah Honolulu magazine, so you have to vote in, and these are, not just it's not a rigged system because it was voted in by people that really have gone to our restaurant. And I think having the kind of chefs that we have, they also are kind of known in the area. Chef Masaki is a trusted chef, executive chef in the area, and he has this good relationship with the community. That's what really kind of through all this foodies, even influencers, or just the typical family of four, or a couple retired there. So that's something that was kind of interesting. And also, I think it's all the only Jinya that really customize some menus according to the market. For
Mm.
example. we launched what we called Shaka Ramen, which is you put it in a container, clear container. It's actually brockless ramen. So it's noodle. It gets served to people in events, and people look forward to it. If you say, for example, it's a festival, a music festival, or a foodie festival of some sort. Chef Masaki would always go there and would bring his famous shaka ramen. So it comes in a container, and how you eat it is actually you have to shake it so that the sauce in it kind of really blends into the noodles, and it stuck into someone's mind,
Yeah.
Hawaii. So all the surfers, they always do the shaka, and I think it
Yeah.
was one of those cool things that we've done.
Yeah. Hawaii is such a fun place. Dumb statement of the day, but um, and that is such an interactive element that does get to the root of some of the Hawaiian culture, both native and mainlander expats, if you want to call them that. What's really interesting about that too, going back to what you had said earlier in our discussion about local thinking, specifically on the Hawaiian Islands, there are literal printed books for tourists coming in from Korea, tourists coming in from
Yes,
Japan, and they are used. It's not like a it's not like here locally where you're like, "Oh, you have to be in the charlatan, magazine." No,
it's
it's
different
literally
there.
they get
Yes,
off the plane, they buy the book, and then they
yes,
go through and they hit all the places in the book. And,
yes,
knowing that is so critical to success in that particular microcosm of a market, but it's easy to see that being a microcosm because it's an island. It's a lot more difficult, I think, for people to understand that the way that you would market, let's say, in Alpharetta versus Atlanta, or where I am in Huntersville versus the city of Charlotte, it is that different. You can just think of them like islands. It sounds like that's what you're also supporting.
yes.
Um, so when let's talk about timing. When do you start getting into the market? When do you start warming up a market? And then, if you're already in the market, when do you start warming up the area about a new location?
I'd say if it's a really new area, as soon as you know that you're going to be in and you've selected a site, as early as that. I always believe in like pre PR. As soon as the construction begins or breaking of the ground, it is anything that you send out to the local media, and it kind of creates that buzz and creates that, like thinking or awareness, like, oh my gosh, I had this when I went to LA. I'm glad that they're having it in Greenville, South Carolina. We did that with Greenville actually a year ago when we knew that we're going to be in that new mixed use. It's a commercial residential area. Uh, and we're one of those tenants that is going to be built in that area. And anytime that it is a brand outside from their state, it's oftentimes it creates that little curiosity. What is this, brand? What is JINYA? We actually got a lot of phone calls after we did that pre PR that were um, signing a lease or opening up in Greenville, South Carolina. So I always say the minute that you immediately capitalize on that opportunity, because you would want people to start talking about your brand, your restaurant, and then getting excited. What is it? And then you'll find people who's been in different state or city and they've tried it. Oh, I went to this so and so and I actually tried it. It was really good. Very, it's comfort food. Any word of mouth is a, you know, plus points for you. And of course, when you are already right on the target of opening, I always say do the 30, 60, 90 days on it. What it is you don't just focus on your launch day or your grand opening. Make sure that at least 6 to 8 weeks prior to, your target grand opening date, you are already trying to penetrate the market. You're sending emails, calling, different people that you know, or touching on the community. A good example that we have done, it has worked really well, is that touching on the kids. A lot of people don't know that we have kids meal. So this
Mm,
is a point. Kids meal doesn't have to always translate to junk food or
Yeah,
fast.
chicken nuggets and mac and cheese. Yeah.
Yeah, yes. Kids meal can be fun and also healthy and fresh. And that's where we have come up with this outreach with schools. We partner with schools to honor their straight A students. And what we do is we give them free kids meal certificate. And then we give them this, let's say typically a middle schooler would have at least, let's say on a 650 population in one school, they would award at least about 300, 350 kids. That includes the straight A students,
Mm,
on the roll, and then they have the perfect attendance, student of the month. So we would partner with them. And the way we kind of craft that whole partnership is we make sure that they are aware not just we're giving away this certificate, is that we're informing them that we have this freshest ingredients that we want to introduce to kids. It's a good age or time to introduce new food. When they
mhm.
think of ramen, every kid would always think it's the ramen noodles that they whip up on the stove or in the microwave. They don't know that
Yeah,
there is this kind of ramen culture outside of that. There's that Japan is actually pretty popular with that. And you don't have to, if you can't afford to go there or you haven't traveled outside of the country, there are places like JINYA who can actually provide that for you. And that's one thing that we want to touch on is that we provide the freshest ingredients for kids so that parents don't feel like, okay, this is kind of like interesting because when you have the kids meal, I don't know if you've had the opportunity to do that for your daughter, but the kids meal that we have has that chicken ramen. It has the Saboro with rice, and then it has the French fries. It has the salad. It's like a whole meal for less than $10,
that's
and
great.
yeah, and you can't find that anywhere. So that's something that we're trying to start teaching kids that there is food outside of the typical burger or mac and cheese, the yellow food. You know how they
Yeah,
say, yeah, if your food is one color, it's not healthy. So
yep,
we introduce that to kids, and it's been amazing because a lot of even the teachers, the principals that we partner with, they're not only that they are grateful that we're honoring this kids. Now kids are looking forward to actually doing really good at school because oh my gosh, that's a good restaurant. I heard so much things about that. I want to have all those certificates from different restaurants as well.
yeah. There's also something outside of the certificate, but if it's a certificate with an actual card,
Yes,
because it makes kids feel like adults. So I
yes,
have a card I'm going to pay with. I have a thing like I have
yes,
currency, so it's a lot
yes.
of fun. Um, so this might be the biggest question of them all. What is one thing that you must do, and one thing you must avoid when considering opening new locations and markets?
Must to build relationship. You have to touch on the community. Like I said, you can't just, come and go on the grand opening. You have to have that certain connection to the local media, to um, the local, TV station that you're gonna or try and promote your restaurant or your grand opening. Even the chamber. These are things that people don't really understand. It takes time, takes a lot of um, work to build that kind of relationship. Because when I announced again to San Antonio that I'm coming back, second year around, last year we opened the San Antonio South Rim location, and I'm coming back this Tuesday. People are excited because they had a great experience the last time. We took care of people. We follow up, we follow through, and now we're building this community of people that know we exist in the area and they can rely on us on certain things. For example, some schools would come for us for donation for their local teams. That's something that we're very open and we really make sure that we support them because they've supported us when we open our first location there. So building that relationship and being kind of known in the community sometimes matters more than just the foot traffic that you're trying to get every day.
Yep.
Because when everything else is said and done, they're going to be there to know that, you know what, this company, this restaurant actually showed, that they care about us. They cared about our kids. Let me, go there. It does stick to their brain, and actually they remember that. Um, Probably a don't is it's always the bells and whistles of grand opening that people think would just be the one and done, the answer to all of your opening restaurants 101 kind of
Like
thing.
media night, friends and family, call
Yes.
me.
It's important. However, it's that don't overspend on flashy campaigns. That's to me, sometimes those flashy campaigns may lack substance or it will, ends up failing connecting to the audience. You have to, the way you can have a successful opening, it's rooted in the authentic connection that you have with your local customers. Really ask them sincerely when they come in. And so what the marketing people does should translate to the operation side. How's your experience? How was your food? And if it's their first time, you help them navigate through that. And I think that's one thing that a lot of restaurants can learn is to help your customers navigate through your menu as well. Oftentimes they think that, oh, they know what they want. Yeah, it's like, no, because sometimes people have anxiety. I
Hmm.
know a lot of people have anxiety just looking at menus that they end up ordering what they didn't want. So you try and connect to your customers through that um, authentic connection from your server to that customer or from your bartender to your customer. Teach them to be human as well. It's not just
Right.
an caretaker. Ask them how their day is. Sometimes those, small questions, small talk makes a whole, new difference in their perspective about restaurants. They always think that restaurants, they just want us here and they want us to go. No,
Right.
have that connection. Teach that to your staff. Have your staff make that connection to your customers because it's those little interaction that makes a difference in someone's lives. And you would see that sometimes on your reviews. It will pop up on the review almost immediately on Google, and they would say, "It's like I really had a great experience. This person didn't have to ask me about my day, but he cared for some reason he cared, and because of that, he's like just made me feel like I can trust this place, not
Right.
just to but to take my friends, my family in here. So it has to align with the community values and lifestyle. I think that's what's important.
That's wonderful. Kai, you've been so absolutely generous, as expected, with your knowledge and your expertise. Where can people connect with you, and when will we see you in person?
I know. I'm currently right now consulting with different brands, but you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Very, very active there, and you will be able to see me hopefully RNC in April. And
Or at an opening, right?
yes, that's true. If you're in San Antonio, I'm opening the 68th location of JINYA Ramen Bar in San Antonio on Tuesday. Uh, and I'm actually excited. A lot of my peers and colleagues in our industry actually have asked me this. It feels like that I always make the grand opening fun. That they see it from my posts and whatnot. I hope it translates well as well, in my work and interaction with others. I do make it fun and I make sure that everything that is being done there is very authentic. So it's not just just for the fun of it. No, it's that's me. So Tuesday, San Antonio, if you're there, Calibra, um, I'm opening it. So
I love it. Yeah, thank you for bringing the joy and having that rapturous mentality and all of it, and I cannot wait to hang out again at one of these shows, and
I
I
will.
constantly
No, I
will
like
be
that you
cheering for
said.
you.
I like that you said it. Bringing the joy.
That's right.